Yo, it's ODB from Our Lifestyle Podcast. Gonna try something a little bit different here with this flip through. As you know, we've been going through our favorite old school magazine, Mini Truckin' Magazine. With this flip through, I'm gonna switch it up a little bit and jump over to the Source magazine, which was really dedicated to the hip hop, of course, culture. And I think you guys will enjoy it. You know, on the podcast, every year I do kind of an episode related to Dr. Dre and The Chronic, which came out in December of 9/2, aka 9 Deuce. And what I want to do is kind of just highlight this. I was digging through some of the older magazines I had, and this was one that I wanted to kind of highlight. Ironically enough, 2021 will mark the 25th anniversary of Dre leaving Death Row Records, and this issue pretty much piggybacks off of that story that had just transpired in 9/6. So if you're new here or you found us because of your love of hip hop, make sure you tune in to Our Lifestyle Podcast. We are a mini trucking inspired podcast, but we hit on 80s, 90s, BMX, old school BMX, and so much more, including hip hop when time allows. So let's jump right in. Now, this issue, as I mentioned, of the Source, you can see there is July 96, back when they were $295 rather for US, or $350 for Canada. And pretty cool cover. I always thought they did a good job with this one. You essentially have the headline story is Dr. Dre leaves Death Row, as I mentioned there. You see there, you got Digital Underground, De La Soul, Sadat X, sound systems of the Stars, which includes Jermaine Dupri and Chris Cross, and then Jim Jackson and Fife. I always thought it was pretty cool how they did this in terms of having the electric chair kind of behind him. What a pretty cool photo shoot there. Again, it ties right into the lead story. Now, also, the reason why I think this is important is obviously recently Dr. Dre had an aneurysm, and that led him to stay in the hospital for some weeks. He's back. There's been some mega producers kind of commenting or posting on social media saying that Dre is now in the mode to record and finish Detox, his long-awaited album, which many of us thought was pretty much scrapped. And if the rumors are true, it sounds like he does want to put out new material, which I think will be a win for hip-hop. And with Dre going through the divorce and all of that stuff, maybe he now has the mindset that he's ready to rock and roll. Okay, so you got in the inside here, Carl Kanai's shoes. Carl Kanai's been kind of making a comeback in terms of social media. I've seen multiple posts highlighting the hip-hop artists that they've worked with over the years, primarily Tupac. And, there's the stories out there where Tupac worked back with Carl Kanai and kind of did some free photo shoots for him and things like that, which led to some of these famous ads. So you got the table of contents with Dre. I think the photographer was a guy named James Blakesmith, or there it is right there, J. Blakesberg. So you'll see that as well in the actual feature. So if you're new again here, I primarily go through kind of older mini trucking magazines, and we'll kind of narrate a little bit of what I know. And this is kind of new to me, going through a magazine that's not related to the car and truck world, but I was not a religious subscriber to the Source for whatever reason. I think it was kind of the age that I was at. I really didn't have the funds probably to want to subscribe. And what I would do is when I would go to the record stores, basically in the mall primarily back in those days, talks a little bit about East Coast, West Coast war here, I would pick up a copy here and there for $3. You're buying a CD back in those days. It ranged $15 to $18, and then you throw a magazine in. As an example, I have this famous Ice Cube one. Big hip hop fan, really love the West Coast, but of course I've got plenty of East Coast as well in terms of content with CDs and tapes. Some vinyl, not a lot. Here you got Helter Skelter. See Priority Records there. Heather B, I actually have one of her CD singles, and it's that one, If Heads Only Knew. She was famously on the MTV, the first reality show, I think it was, if I remember correctly. That's where I first heard of her. Who remembers the name of that show? This was a way for many of us to kind of find out what the new music was or what was coming out. Like, I remember seeing this, America is Dying Slowly. It was kind of a awareness about AIDS. Of course, when Too Short, this is when he was going to retire. I remember picking this up, the original Gangster soundtrack. Sunset Park, real good soundtrack there. Some of these are not available on streaming either. So often people are like, man, why do you still buy content? Well, not everything is available to stream. I think last time I checked, I don't think Sunset Park soundtrack was. Because of licensing or who knows what. So it kind of shows there. This was at the tail end, of course, right before Tupac was killed. So you basically had Dre leave Death Row, and then at the end of To Live and Die in L.A., which, by the way, the yellow Impala from that car, Long Beach Lloyd owns. And I think he's going to be selling it. But at the end of that track, you'll hear where, Tupac takes a slap at Dre. And that was ironic because of the fact that Dre had just left earlier in the year, as I had mentioned. And then Tupac, of course, recorded more content that came out on Machiavelli album, and he was famously killed, unfortunately, that September. Tupac's one of my favorite artists of all time. So Rare Air, is it really the shoes? Kind of talking about, again, part of the culture was sneakers and Jordans and things like that. I rarely would ever rip these out unless I was actually sending it in. So kind of like Playboy, they would talk about politics and things that they felt were important to the culture. I have not read a Source magazine in a long time. I'm assuming they're still in print. But I probably only have a handful left. I sold a few over the years. Like I had a couple with Tupac. I one for sure that I think that photographer Chi, I think is how you say his name, Chi. Modu, that he shot Tupac did a feature photographer, a photo session rather, in Atlanta. So Fat Tape, we used to pay real close attention to this to kind of see, what was some of the new stuff. And right here, East Coast, West Coast Killer, they talk about it in the article. I actually have a promo copy of it right here. It was technically, they spun it as Group Therapy, and of course it featured a lot of artists on it. This is one that I picked up at a local record store back in the day. So you got Black Thought here in the famous hip-hop quotable. Those are always pretty cool, laying down the bars. Nas is Coming. I remember buying this the day it came out. Again, cool little advertisement here. If I remember correctly, that was his second album, the follow-up to Illmatic. So I won't spend as much time on these as I kind of do with the mini trucking magazines. Tell me this isn't crazy. Message Power, tired of forgetting messages and keeping track of paper. Smart Power solves your problems. It works in conjunction with your cellular phone to record multiple messages while you speak. That's one thing I like about looking at these older magazines, is like the technology to show how much it's changed. So you got Kinfolk right here. I never listened to a lot of their stuff. A lot of times when I look back, if these weren't artists that I listened to a lot of, I'll try to look them up on streaming platforms. Here's Sadat X. And a lot of times, not everything is out there, as I mentioned. I mean, there is a good amount of content, but not everything. This is when Scarface launched Face Mob. I think that album is streaming now through Spotify. I believe it always wasn't available. But I found a lot of stuff that maybe I missed out on back in the day simply by looking, through either Apple Music or Spotify. So here you have Digital Underground. Shock G's mother lives right by us here where I live in Florida. And my buddy Paul, who was just here a little while ago, he sees him all the time when he's over at his in-laws' house. I'm going to try to get him on the podcast. He said he would do it. My buddy Paul asked him. Obviously, Digital Underground found Tupac, originally kind of put him on game. And the rest is history. Catastrophe from the Alcoholics back in the day. Check out how basic the system was. Nice components. So you had, that was the other thing here. As I mentioned, the technology, you can kind of take a look at, like, full color LCD display, $1,500. I mean, imagine having this stuff today. I mean, it's obviously collector items oftentimes, but the technology is just almost outdated. So this is pretty cool. You got Chris Kelly. I mentioned Chris Cross, but it was just Chris Kelly showing off his Benz. DJ Magic Mike. Now, my friend Jason Barbaglia, he does DJ Maze Radio on Twitch. DJ Magic Mike is also on Twitch, and Magic Mike jumps into the homie Jason Barbaglia's feed as well. So they kind of show each other some love in terms of, jumping into each other's live sets and whatnot. Download Twitch and check out DJ Maze Radio. Again, you got DJ Magic Mike, Cheetah Records, 92 Mercedes-Benz 500 SL, and then the 91 BMW 325 IC. Here you got Jermaine Dupri. Obviously, he became a superstar. Really, even at this time, he was. Old school box. Lots of components there, from CD changers, the VCR, you name it. You even got the PlayStation in there. Again, times have changed, and you can see there some of the games. I don't know if it's NBA Jam, but in those long boxes and things like that they came in. De La Soul. And because this is in 4K, a lot of times you can change the setting. Like if you have it on automatic, if you're looking to maybe read some of this content, that's another reason why I try to go through these. You can pause it if you're looking for something in particular. Of course, you got Jay-Z's debut album, Reasonable Doubt. Many refer to it as a classic. I don't really know anybody that says it's not a classic. Mr. Mike of South Circle, Wicked Ways. Tila, we used to bump that a lot, definitely in the South, featuring 8Ball and MJG. So Life After Death. This is an interview by Frank Williams. Again, photography is Jay Blakesberg. And it's kind of interesting because, again, this was a little bit further, kind of the summer of 96, right after he had left. And technically the July 96 issue. And here he says it wasn't anything in particular that happened. Actually, it was just an accumulation of a lot of shit. And it got to the point where I wasn't having fun at death row. It's like I want to go up to the studio and work, and there's like 50 people in the studio that he doesn't know. They're all in my ear while you were trying to work, so I decided to bounce. Talks about rumors of Suge Knight, all the different rumors that, that he had beat up Dre and this and that. And here, Dre talks about he hadn't talked to Suge in a while. There's a lot of stuff he covers. These are where the famous photos came from. These will circulate sometime. Dre sitting on a Lincoln Town Car limousine. And you'll see those circulate, but it's really from this photo shoot. Let me just jump back here one page. Kind of go through this. If anybody's looking to research, he talks about here, he has his little DAT that he plugs into the car, and he plays them East Coast Killer, West Coast Killer. Dre was trying to kind of find a new sound, something maybe different to talk about, that transition. But if you think about now, it being 25 years later, really, he not only did he leave Ruthless, he stayed at death row for, let's say 91 to 96. And then, of course, he left, started Aftermath, and really the rest is history. I mean, really, no matter which way you feel about Dre, it's a huge success story on him kind of paving his own way. Now, I do follow the DOC on social media. I think he's a legend. He talks about right here, he says, F the DOC, and he kind of talks a little bit about it. Of course, if you are into hip-hop like I am, especially the West Coast, you'll know that DOC ended up using the Helter Skelter title, which was the famous album that Dre was going to do with Ice Cube, titled Helter Skelter. And DOC was obviously in the photo the other day that one of the producers had posted, talking about Detox 2021 potentially. And, obviously they've made up over the years, but from my understanding of reading a lot about them, they kind of have like a brotherly feud over the years. DOC had lived with Dre for a long time. They're pretty much like brothers, but, as anybody knows, if you have a sibling, the brotherly love and some of the things that go down between siblings sometimes isn't always great. So it's cool to me over the years that they've been able to squash whatever shit they had going on and, do the damn thing. So Helter Skelter, you got Uncle Luke still repping down South Florida here. MC Breed, rest in peace. One of his most famous songs, Future in Your Frontin', with... I think DFC's was technically credited with that one. I just recently picked up that tape cassette from their famous first album. With Things in My Hood Ain't Changed. There's an awesome remix of that song, by the way, on Spotify. Look up DFC. It's got Nate Dogg on it. But, here you go. A little bit earlier, I said Digital Underground, so Future Rhythm, new album on sale. Of course, coming from the Bay, they always had that distinct sound. And if you watch the Netflix series about hip-hop, they interview Shock G. It looks like they interview him here in right where I live from the background. It says Tampa, but if you live around this area, you kind of know where his mom resides at, and it almost looks like they maybe filmed that segment in the house out there. Just a gas. So singles there. Digital Underground. Recently picked up their cassette tape, Sex Packets. Had the CD, but try to complete the collection. Sneak previews, so you got NASA was written, and then this were the tentative release dates. Above the Law, Time Will Reveal, Tribe Called Quest, Outkast, AT Aliens, their follow-up album, DeBrat, Untitled, Mobb Deep, Untitled. So some pretty good classics that came out. Then, of course, you had all the Fly Market. You had your smaller ads. Boot Camp. Deadly and Dangerous, Brain Man, a.k.a. Human Wreck. Never listened to him, I'll be honest. You got Warren G, LL, AZ, D'Angelo. Looks like White Cloth, maybe? Yeah, the few issues that I have with the Source are some of my favorite ones, including with MC8 on the cover, with the 8 balls. There you see Face, Coolio, Shaheem, Common, Heather B. If Heads Only Knew. MC8, Compton's Most Wanted, some of my favorite artists. I've got those, and maybe if you guys enjoy these, I'll go through more of them. This is one thing I always looked forward to, The Last Word. And always some pretty cool artwork in there. Hip-hop related, of course. Coming at you in August, so it gave you a little bit of insight, including the second coming of the MC Nas. So Def taking over in 9-6, the Brat, Houdini, So Def, Bass All-Stars, which those are some pretty cool compilations. We bang those a lot here. Mr. Black. And then Above the Law, which I mentioned a few minutes ago, was their new album that was coming out. So, it's a wrap. hopefully you've enjoyed this, or maybe you got some content that you needed for some research that you're doing or videos that you're putting together. Give us a thumbs up. Hopefully, if you just enjoyed this, the amount of work that we put into kind of, curating this stuff and going through, recording it, editing, uploading, you name it. We certainly appreciate the good word. Stay on the rise, keep hip hop alive, and minis. Of course, we talk all about those on our Lifestyle Podcast. Stay on the rise, y'all. ODB, we out here. Peace.